right, let's do this. Hello, welcome to my guide for taking your kids to Disneyland and having a pleasant day. Actually enjoying yourself, making some core memories, keeping the stress low, because there's kind of a lot that goes into it nowadays, and it can be really overwhelming, especially if it's your first time. So this is something that I'm always getting asked about online and in my real life, since I am a certified Disney adult, obviously. And my kids are 1 and almost 4. I'm a pass holder, so we go a couple times a month. And I feel like at this point, we've got it figured out. Like, we have so much fun when we go, but there's just a lot to know to help make the day go smoothly. So I figured I would compile all of my best tips in one video, no gatekeeping.
And while this guide is specifically for Disneyland in California and geared towards parents with young kids, a lot of these tips will work for all ages and at Disney World as well.
Okay, so there's kind of a lot that I'm gonna cover. So I think I'm gonna start with just before the trip, the prep, the planning, and walk through the whole experience. When you're choosing the dates for your trip, I highly recommend looking up a crowd calendar. I use the one on Is It Packed, and it gives a forecast for how crowded it'll be based on previous years, also school schedules, special events. And I'd say it's like maybe 70% accurate, so definitely some fluctuations in there, but it can be very helpful, especially if you're wanting to avoid those like really packed days. In general, I feel like the hard and fast rule when I was growing up was that Disneyland is just crazy crowded on the weekends, or in the summer, it's just always gonna be packed. And that isn't really the case anymore. They've done the dynamic ticket pricing, so tickets are typically more expensive on the weekends, which that plus, you know, a lot of the passes being blocked out on the weekends or in the busier seasons, it's kind of evened out the crowds a little bit. So depending on the time of year, sometimes a Saturday can actually be less crowded than like a Tuesday. But it's funny because like my parents don't have passes. We would go to Disneyland like once every couple years when I was growing up. And now planning trips for them to come with me and the kids, they're always like, oh no, we can't go on a Saturday. I'm like, actually, not the worst thing in the world anymore. When you're buying your tickets, take a look at the discounts on the Disneyland website. A lot of the times they have special offers going on, especially for multi-day tickets. Like right now they have their 70th anniversary ticket deal. Sometimes they'll do special offers for Disney Plus subscribers or SoCal residents or free children's tickets. So definitely take a look and see if there are any offers that you can take advantage of. Okay, something we've got to talk about is what age to take your kids to Disneyland. And honestly, there is no right answer for this. It's gonna be so different family to family, and any age can be special and magical. There are pros and cons, because like, yeah, if this is your once in a lifetime trip that you're planning, you might wanna wait until your kids are tall enough to do all of the big rides and really remember everything. But also when they're 2, you know, Mickey Mouse is real to them, and that magic is so special. Under 3, they are free, so there's definitely a benefit to that. For me personally, I would say like around 18 months is when it was like, oh my God, she is so into this and really loving the rides and the characters and the magic. But there's definitely a huge misconception that there's not a lot to do at Disneyland with a baby, because most of the rides actually don't have a height requirement. Obviously the big ones, you know, your Space Mountain, your Thunder Mountain, you're not gonna be hitting those up when you're with littles, but like all of the dark rides, a lot of the classics like Haunted Mansion and Pirates, like there really is so much to do. I'm gonna put a list on screen here of all of the rides with no height requirement, and I'll highlight the ones that are standouts for my kids. There are also a few rides with a 32-inch height requirement. Autopia, Mater, the little Toontown coaster is 35 inches. My daughter was able to ride that right before she turned 2, and it's just so fun, so special. But the really big threshold is 40 inches. That's when like almost everything is unlocked. Cars, Guardians, Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain. There's a few more that have a little bit of a higher requirement, but 40 inches is kind of when you enter that next tier of Disney rides. And Disney is very strict on those height requirements, so make sure that you measure your kids at home before you go so that you can set expectations and avoid some of that disappointment. In terms of what to bring to the parks, a few essentials. Definitely a stroller. Oh my gosh, a stroller. Even if your kids are older and aren't really regularly using a stroller, like Disneyland is so much walking. And also, even if they're not riding in it that much, it is so great to have a place for your jackets, your snacks, all your stuff. And some of the walkways can get get pretty congested, so it's nice being able to just have the kids hop in the stroller, get to your next destination. They do have strollers to rent at Disneyland, and they also sell umbrella strollers, but neither option recline, and they don't really have storage. So I definitely recommend bringing your own, and put an AirTag in your stroller. Stroller theft isn't a big problem at the parks. I'm sure it does happen, but I feel safe leaving my stroller when we're going on rides. Having that AirTag in it though definitely gives peace of mind. And a lot of the times when you park your stroller, the cast members will move it either to like consolidate the strollers, make more space, or if you ever park your stroller in a place that you are not supposed to park your stroller, it will immediately get moved. Like they're so on top of it. So make sure you're always parking in the right places. And even if you are, sometimes your stroller is going to get moved. So having that AirTag in it can be really helpful in tracking it down. I like to bring a small fanny pack with me and put my valuables in that and then bring that in line with me when we're getting on rides. You know, don't leave anything in the stroller that you'd be devastated to lose, but jackets, snacks, and stuff, you're probably gonna be fine. And while we're on the topic of strollers, at Disneyland, you have to collapse your stroller to get on the tram from parking, to get on the monorail, to get on the train that goes around the park. And personally, taking everything out of the stroller and folding it while I'm alone with both my kids is a fate worse than death. Like, I will not be doing that. I will not be doing that. It's stressful. It's hard. I'm trying to hold everything and open the door, and it's just, I learned a while ago that that is just stress that I don't need. So here's how you're gonna avoid that. Park at the Mickey and Friends parking structure or Pixar Pals, they're connected, and take the elevator down to level 2. There is a bridge there that connects you to downtown Disney, and then you get to go through security there instead of at the parking structure, which is also a way shorter line. Bypass the tram altogether, never have to collapse your stroller, and get your steps in. Enjoy a nice walk through downtown Disney, which leads you right to the gates of the park. It is not a bad walk. It's about 3/4 of a mile, and including security, it usually takes me less than 30 minutes, and it just cuts down that stress significantly. So highly, highly recommend. Okay, on to more things to bring. Also, highly recommend a baby carrier. Holding your babies in line halfway through the day, you are gonna be feeling it in your arms, in your back. And if you have an infant, most rides, you'll be able to keep your baby in the carrier when you actually get on the ride. And that's so nice, so convenient. My youngest rode pretty much every ride in the carrier up until she was about like 9 months old and sitting up. The carrier can also be really helpful for just keeping kids regulated. You know, there's a lot going on at Disneyland. It can be loud, it can be overstimulating. And so having a way for them to feel safe and snuggled close is really nice, and it's also great for naps on the go, especially if you have kids at different ages and you don't really want to just pause the day when it's nap time in the stroller. Nap on the go in the carrier and you don't have to miss a beat. For toddlers who are walking but still might need to be held during parts of those waits, I love the Tush Baby. Cannot recommend it enough. It really helps distribute the weight. It's got like a convenient little pocket for storage, and it's just so convenient for those quick, like, constant ups and downs. Snacks. Oh my gosh, I pack so many snacks when we go to Disneyland, and here's the thing. Disneyland food is amazing, like especially their snacks. They've always got fun little seasonal items going on, and I feel like the prices are pretty good compared to other theme parks. But even if you're planning on buying food in the parks, bring a million snacks for your kids, because it's one thing to spend $6 on Dole Whip. It's another thing to spend $6 on an Uncrustable or a bag of chips or some fruit that you could have packed from home. It's happened to me, and I'm always kicking myself, so now I just bring every snack option that I have. Also a water bottle, because having to buy a water in the parks, again, like such an easy way to save money. They have water refill stations throughout the park, and at most of the quick service food locations, you can ask for a free cup of water, but having your own water bottle, being able to fill it, take it on the go, it's so nice. And forking over the $5 for that Dasani at those little carts, it sucks. Easy way to save. Definitely bring hats, especially for kids. Some of the lines just have no cover from the sun, and you will be baking out there in the Anaheim heat. It gets hot. Also on that note, sunscreen. Apply it early and often. I actually set timers on my phone. It gets busy and it is far too easy to forget, and a bad sunburn can ruin the trip. So take it seriously, sunscreen up. You're definitely gonna wanna bring an external phone battery. There's a lot that you're using your phone for on the Disneyland app, which we'll get into that later, but it definitely drains your battery. And then on top of that, you know, taking all the pictures and the videos, your phone's gonna die bring a battery pack. They do have fuel rod stations throughout the park, and you can find the locations of these on the Disneyland app. But here you can buy a charging kit or swap your dead fuel rod for a fully charged one for free. They do have totally free, unlimited swaps. I think at all the fuel rod locations outside Disneyland, it's $1. There was some sort of lawsuit years ago where they have to keep the ones at Disneyland free. So kind of cool. The fuel rod is always an essential in my Disney bag. And last kind of random thing, I always recommend bringing pajamas for your kids to change into at the end of the night. If you've got to drive home after, even if it's nearby to a hotel, like if your kids are anything like mine, they're probably going to be closing their eyes as soon as you're leaving the parking garage. So I like to bring pajamas for them, and we just change into those before we do our walk out of the park, so we can just transfer right to bed when we get home. Okay, next section of the video. You're in the park. The day is here. The trip has come. First thing you're going to want to know, there is a baby care center in each of the parks. In Disneyland, it's at the end of Main Street to the right by the corn dog cart. And at Disney's California Adventure, it's in the entrance of San Francisco, right by the Ghirardelli store. In here, they have private stalls for breastfeeding and pumping. They have bottle warmers. They have a microwave, changing tables, high chairs, even a small toddler-sized potty, which is great if you're potty training. And they also have a vending machine here where they sell baby snacks, diapers, wipes, anything that you may have forgotten at home. Okay, now the Disneyland app. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have that downloaded onto your phone before your trip, have your park tickets loaded on there so that you can scan in at the gate. And this app has everything for your trip. It's got the up-to-date wait times, the show times for each day, where to find certain characters, lightning lane booking, and mobile ordering. And oh my gosh, can I just sing the praises of mobile ordering for a second? Mobile order everything. Like, I have not waited in a food line at Disneyland in so long because you can do everything on mobile order. It is the best. You can mobile order snacks, drinks, food. You pay on the app, it tells you when your food is ready, you walk right up, pick it up, and when I'm going to Disneyland with my kids, I try to cut down on the waiting anywhere we can, because waiting is hard, especially for kids, and why wait in a line when you don't have to? So definitely take advantage of mobile ordering. It is simply the best. Also, super random little food freebie. In California Adventure at the Boudin Bakery, you can get a free sourdough bread sample. They hand them out right at the front, and my kids always love this as a little snack. Now let's talk about Lightning Lane. Lightning Lane is the current iteration of what we all grew up knowing as FastPass, except now it's all digital on the app, and you also have to pay for it. Costs about $32 to $40 per person per day, depending on the crowds. And it's worth noting that if your child is under 3 and they don't need a park ticket, they also don't need Lightning Lane. If you have it, they get to enter through the Lightning Lane with you for no added cost. However, I actually don't recommend getting Lightning Lane when you're going with young kids. At Disneyland, most of the rides that have Lightning Lane are the bigger e-ticket attractions. Like, a lot of the kids rides don't have it. All of those, you know, classic Fantasyland dark rides, no Lightning Lane. There are a few. It's a Small World, Pirates, Haunted Mansion, Buzz Lightyear at Disneyland. And then at California Adventure, they have Monsters Inc., they have Toy Story, Little Mermaid, but it's definitely far more worth that markup when you're using it on the big rides. And here's the thing, Lightning Lane is definitely gonna get you on more rides. You're gonna spend less time waiting. And if you're going with adults in your group, it might still be worth it for you. I usually do pay for Lightning Lane when we go on a big trip with my extended family who don't have passes and they're buying a day ticket and they want to make sure that they're getting on Space Mountain and Matterhorn and Incredicoaster. But for a kid-focused trip, I think your money can be better put to use elsewhere. And another reason for that is that Lightning Lane requires more time on your phone and more planning ahead. You're booking ride windows often like a few hours in advance. And being there with littles, the more flexibility, the better. Like, being able to just spontaneously go with the flow, take an extended break without being like, but we have to be back at this place at this time for our Lightning Lane. It really does lower the stress. That being said, if you're still gonna do Lightning Lane, here's a little rundown on my strategy. Set timers on your phone to maximize your bookings. You can book a Lightning Lane either every 2 hours or once you've used the last one that you booked, whichever comes first. So you should always have something booked, even if you go back in and edit it to a later time. Book your next ride ride as soon as you scan in for your current one. And some of the more popular rides book up really quickly. So you might be looking at a Lightning Lane return time that's 5, 6, 7 hours in advance. And those really popular rides like Space Mountain at Disneyland or Guardians of the Galaxy at California Adventure, they will actually run out of Lightning Lane return times for the entire day pretty early on. But then there are others like Star Tours or Little Mermaid, It's a Small World, where your return time might be immediate or like 20, 30 minutes later. So what I'll do is when I'm anticipating a break coming up, a meal, maybe we're gonna go, explore one of the play areas for a bit, that's the time when I'll book one of those more popular rides where the return time is longer than 2 hours away. So that way we're locking in that ride for later in the day. We can then stack another Lightning Lane on top of it once that 2-hour window has expired. So we're waiting that 2 hours at an optimal time where we wouldn't be using another Lightning Lane anyways. Whereas if we're gonna be, bopping around from ride to ride for a little while, that's when I'll prioritize the Lightning Lanes with a more immediate return time so that we can do a bunch back to back to back. And like I said, as soon as we're scanning into the queue, immediately booking the next one. Another tool you can use that isn't an added cost is Rider Switch. This is gonna be for any of the bigger rides that some of your party is wanting to do, but that the little kids aren't tall enough for yet. What you're gonna do is before you get in line, talk to the cast member out in front of the queue and let them know that you'd like to use Rider Switch. They'll scan the tickets of whoever's waiting with the little kids outside the ride, and the rest of your party will wait in the regular standby line. You're free to go elsewhere with the littles, keep them occupied. When the rest of your group gets off, you switch, they wait with the kids, and you get to ride, but you don't have to wait in the full line. They're gonna send you through Lightning Lane. When it comes to lines, there is an element of waiting that is, of course, inevitable at Disneyland. And that can be really hard for anyone, for me, but especially for young kids. So here's a few tips for that. First, I would say just know your kids' threshold. Maybe they can wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Set them up for success by knowing that threshold and just not choosing the rides that are gonna be longer than that. I also really recommend just making waiting in line part of the experience from the very beginning so that they know what to expect. Instead of saying to our kids, do you wanna go on Peter Pan? Because of course they want to go on it if they can just go right on it. That's their frame of reference. But if it's, do you want to get in line to go on Peter Pan? You're making that wait part of the experience and setting the expectation for that from the beginning. Also, definitely play pretend with waiting in line before your trip, whether that's with their toys or having an imaginary Disney day at home before where you're waiting in line, or even just like practicing at the grocery store. Also, Disney has really fun design details in the lines, and for younger kids, just pointing those out can be really fun. Counting the seashells on the floor of the Little Mermaid ride, or pointing out the apples and the iron gates of the Snow White queue. There are all these magical little details to notice. As my daughter's gotten older, we play a lot of I Spy in line. We'll do like guess that Disney character. Also, that game Heads Up is super fun to pass the time. There's actually a free version of it that I found randomly online. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's just a random website that some guy made, but it's specific like Disneyland categories, and they have one for kids, and it's pictures instead of words. So if your kid can't read yet, you can play Guess That Disney Character and have them describe it to you. Super, super fun. Quick way to pass the time. But yeah, all of those things have been really, really helpful for my kids dealing with those long waits. Wait times are gonna be at their peak in the middle of the day. That's when I would avoid Fantasyland at all costs. Unless you're going on those rides that have a higher ride capacity and typically have a shorter wait, like the teacups or the carousel. And stagger those rides with longer waits with non-wait, non-ride experiences. Disney has great shows, great play areas. Definitely take advantage of those, because while a 3-year-old can maybe handle, a 20, 30 minute wait, doing 3 of those back to back when the actual ride itself is only a couple minutes, that starts to be a lot. And so I always recommend taking a break at one of the play areas in the middle of the day when the rides are the highest and they maybe need to get some wiggles out. A couple of my favorite places for a break at Disney's California Adventure, the Redwood Creek Challenge is unmatched. So much to do and explore for kids of all ages. If you've got older kids, they have all of these rope climbing things and like a tire swing, zip line. They also have a small little slide area, some walkthroughs for younger kids, and it is just a really nice, beautiful place to explore and kind of recenter yourself for the day. There's also a good amount of shade. If you're also wanting a break from the heat, the Animation Academy building at California Adventure is really fun. There are a few different things going on in the Animation Academy. There's Turtle Talk with Crush. They have the actual Animation Academy where you're learning to draw different Disney characters throughout the day. They have an Anna and Elsa meet and greet, but in the middle of all of those rooms, there's just this huge lobby with these big screens. They have clips from the movie playing while the music is going. They're showing some of like the early sketches from the movie design. Really, really fun. My kids love to just like dance around in there. It's air conditioned. And they've got cute little projections on the floor that the kids love to chase. There also are some actual little couches to sit on, although those are usually taken. So we'll just camp out on the floor for a little bit, have a nice break. At Disneyland, definitely go to Toontown. There is a huge play area, as well as just a lot of things to interact with walking through the buildings, and lots of roaming characters, Mickey and his friends. Well, they also have Mickey and Minnie's houses there, which are so fun and interactive to walk through, and then that's also where they have a meet and greet for Mickey and Minnie. I'm gonna have a whole section on characters though later, so we'll talk more about that, but definitely check out Toontown. And especially if your kids are a little bit older, Tom Sawyer's Island, so fun. More of like a free open area to explore and run around. There are bridges and climbing things and little caves. You can try to find the treasure. My kids are still a little young for this, but they do love it. The storytelling at the Royal Theater in Disneyland is also one of our favorite shows, a great spot to take a break. It's a short 20-minute show, Tangled in the morning and Beauty and the Beast in the evenings, although it doesn't play every day, so check the app for the daily show times, but it is such a cute show and a must-do show for little kids at California Adventure. Although it is closed right now, it's supposedly opening up again at the end of the year with a revamped show, the Disney Junior Dance Party. Oh my gosh.
Hold on, coming in with a last second update. As of last week, the Disney Junior show is back, but it's no longer the Disney Junior Dance Party. After a few months off, it has now been revamped and rethemed to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. We just went to the show for the first time. It's very similar to the previous one. Fun, upbeat, there's bubbles, there's snow, which is also bubbles, Mickey and friends, dancing, music, all the fun, and at a toddler suitable length of about 15 minutes.
They've been doing more little pop-up shows at the outdoor stage right by Monsters, Inc., kind of across from where the Disney Junior Dance Party Theater is. Most recently, they had like a Super Kitties one where the kids actually got to decorate free cupcakes. My daughter loved that. And again, I probably sound like a broken record with this, but check the app because the times and shows for that vary a lot. Okay, next, this is one of my favorite hacks. There are actually two rides that if you have a small party, you can skip the line without a lightning lane. Monsters, Inc. at California Adventure and Winnie the Pooh at Disneyland. They call it the Buddy Pass, or at Winnie the Pooh, they call it the Roo Pass. You're gonna go up to the cast member who's standing outside the line, usually under the umbrella, and you can just ask for it, and they'll give you this little piece of paper for the pass and actually have you enter through the exit. And the reason they do this is because these are both rides that have 3 rows in the ride vehicle. And so they use people with the Buddy Pass to fill the 3rd row. If they have a party of 4 or 2 parties of 2, they just slide you into that 3rd row. So as long as you don't mind sitting in the back, you completely bypass the line. So this is usually for small parties of 2 or 3, although we have done it with 4 with the kids lap sitting and we've still fit comfortably. So as long as you can fit into 1 row, definitely take advantage of that Buddy Pass. Such a great hack. Okay, I think that's everything I have that's ride related. Now let's talk about characters, because if your little kids are anything like mine, characters are sometimes a bigger draw even than the rides. One thing that's really special about Disneyland versus Disney World is the roaming characters. They have characters just out exploring, running around, interacting with guests outside of a typical meet and greet setup. I think it's so special. It adds to the magic so much. We've even seen the characters go on rides sometimes, like the teacups or the carousel. And my daughter thinks it is the coolest thing in the world. You're gonna find the most roaming characters in Fantasyland in the morning and also in Toontown. Sometimes they will also be out in Buena Vista Street or on Main Street, but they're more typically set up in like a certain spot where you wait in line, meet them, get your photo. The true roaming characters are more so kind of chaotically running around. They don't really stop to fully meet you, but they will walk with you, take a quick picture, usually sign an autograph. So if you see a character out and about, you can try to stop and chat with them, maybe walk with them, but sometimes they will just kind of keep it moving to prevent a crowd from forming around them. If you have a kid who wants to meet the princesses, guaranteed way to meet the princesses is gonna be Royal Hall in Fantasyland, right next to the Storytelling Theater. In there, you're typically meeting 3 mystery princesses. So you don't know who it's gonna be when you get in line. We've had Ariel, Mulan, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Tiana, even Anna and Elsa once, Rapunzel, Elena of Avalor. You really never know who you're gonna get. And what's nice about that is you do all the waiting up front, and then you get to meet the 3 princesses back to back. At Disney's California Adventure, there's a Frozen meet and greet inside the Animation Academy. It's typically either Elsa or Anna, and you don't typically know who it's gonna be when you get in line, but what's nice about that way is even though it can be long, it is indoors and air conditioned. And you have all the entertainment going on around you, like I talked about earlier with the big screens and the music and the projections. If meeting Mickey or Minnie is a must-do for your kid, definitely go to their houses in Toontown. That is the guaranteed place to meet them. Although they do sometimes have pop-up meet and greets on Main Street or on Buena Vista Street in California Adventure. Especially for younger kids, it can be really helpful for them to have some sort of item with them to bridge that gap with the character and start the conversation. The characters are really amazing at connecting with kids in different ways, whether they have a character on their shirt or if they're holding a toy of a character, they'll use that to kind of connect and interact. If they are one of the characters who can talk, they're usually great at asking your kids questions and bringing in little magical pieces of the lore from their movies. It can be really fun for them to get to like have that conversation moment with the character. The most popular way though to start that connection is definitely the autograph book. Autograph books are such a fun souvenir, and especially for younger kids who might not be talking a lot yet, it gives them a way to start that interaction with the character, to hand them the book. Something that I noticed the characters doing a lot at the time when my daughter was younger is like flipping through the book and pointing out the other signatures that she had gotten and then, you know, kind of acting them out. Like Mickey was doing Elsa hands when he pointed to the Elsa signature, and my daughter thought that was so special. So if your kid's wanting to meet characters but maybe a little bit nervous or shy, something like an autograph book or a little toy, a figurine that they brought from home of that favorite character that they're meeting can really help to start that interaction and make it special. Another really easy way to make a character connection more natural for kids is to have some sort of celebration button. You can get these for free at Disneyland. Whether it's their birthday, a special milestone, whatever you're celebrating, you can get one of these buttons for free, which also just makes for a really fun little keepsake. And that's something that the characters love to point out when kids are wearing them. So there you have it. That is all of my tips for a fun, easy, stress-free day taking your kids to Disneyland. I'm sure there are things that I forgot because there is just so much that goes into it. So if you have any other questions, definitely leave them down in the comments. But honestly, one of like the biggest tips that I don't even know if I captured well enough in this video is just to allow the day to be slow. Prioritize the overall experience for the whole group, the whole family, over like a specific checklist of rides and experiences that have to get done. It's easy to get wrapped up in everything and forget to actually enjoy it along the way. And sometimes the highlight of a Disney trip for a toddler is just being silly with you in line, or watching the baby ducks waddle past the castle, or going down the slide in Toontown for the 50th time. Like, there's so much magic to be found in those little moments. And a lot of the times for younger kids, those are the things that really mean the most to them and really stick with them anyways. And when we take down the expectations for what a Disney day should be, or trying to hit every ride, we make space for those special little magic moments that can't be planned. Now that is so much easier said than done, having a pass and going all the time versus buying a day ticket, wanting to make the most of this once in a lifetime or maybe once every couple years trip. That pressure to get your money's worth or get on all the big attractions is definitely there, but really making space for those little moments is super impactful and just takes the stress of the day down a lot. So that is gonna be it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have an upcoming Disney trip or you're thinking of planning one, hopefully there's something you can take away from this video to make your trip more enjoyable. So thanks for watching, love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.